It was an exciting time to be alive. I was in New York. I went into the US Federal Reserve in New York, the New York Fed. I sat in the room where bankers would come to sit opposite the head of the New York Fed at the time to negotiate the future of the global economy. It was a life-changing period. It was a terrifying time. It was an uncertain time. It was a time where people were talking about things like subprime. Nobody really knew what it meant, but what had happened is that the world had got greedy and bloated on credit. And the banks had taken advantage of this appetite, this voracious appetite for credit, and people had parceled up bits of debt and had sold it off all over the world. And it had created the biggest calamity for financial markets since 1929. What we didn't know at the time was whether this was 1929, the Great Depression being replayed, whether or not there was going to be any way out of it, and whether or not we would ever be able to afford to retire one day. It was a disaster. Then Ben Bernanke came along, of course, and he made money cheaply available and he reinflated the global economy. He's left the US with $20 trillion worth of debt, and you hear about the US debt ceiling all the time. That is something that's going to play out over time as well. But what the biggest lesson is from 2008 and 2009 and the financial crisis and how the JSE halved in value over a 6-month period is that these things are cyclical, they happen from time to time, excesses happen in markets, corrections happen, and smart people, history shows us, find a way through the crisis. It tells us not to panic in difficult times. It teaches us such important lessons. So if you haven't watched the movies, if you haven't read the books, and if you haven't listened to The Money Show, you really need to.